Hi, today we will look at other types of firewalls such as application level gateways, circuit level gateways, stateful inspection firewalls, and something on where to base these firewalls. So, in application level gateway, it acts as a relay of application level traffic. That is, it is going to work at the application layer, and that's why it is called as an application proxy as well. These are the steps in operation of this kind of gateway. First, the user contacts the gateway using a TCP/IP application, which may be Telnet or FTP or SMTP. So once the user contacts the gateway asks the user for the name of the remote host to which he wants to connect. That is the ID and authentication information of the remote host. So once the gateway gets this information of the remote host, it contacts the application on the remote host and relays the TCP segments containing the application data between the two endpoints. So once the TCP segments are communicated to the other end, that is on the remote host, that is going to take up, and if the gateway does not implement the proxy code for any specific application, then the service is not supported. In such a case, it cannot be forwarded across the firewall. So that is, the gateway can be configured to support only specific applications, so that you allow some applications and disallow other applications. Application level gateways tend to be more secure than packet filters, as the application level gateway need only to scrutinize a few allowable applications rather than looking at all the things. It is easy to log and audit all incoming traffic at the application level, whereas in case of other packet filtering firewalls, it is not that possible. Disadvantage of this type of gateway is additional processing overhead on each connection. There are two spliced connections here between the end users. Now let's look at the circuit level gateway. So this works at the transport layer. Here the gateway sets up two TCP connections, that is, one between itself and the TCP user on an inner host. The second one is between itself and the TCP user and on the outside host. So once these two connections are established, the gateway typically relays TCP segments from one connection to other without examining the contents of the TCP segments. So the important thing here is setting up of two TCP connections. If that is reliable, then there is no need to examine the contents. The security function consists of determining which connections are to be allowed. For example, the gateway can be configured to support application level or proxy service on inbound connections and circuit level function for outbound connections. So in such a configuration, the gateway can incur processing overhead of examining incoming application data for forbidden functions, but does not incur such kind of overhead on outgoing data. So an example of a circuit level gateway implementation is the SOX package, which was earlier on Unix, later also came into Windows system as well. So here, when a TCP based client wishes to establish a connection to an object that is reachable only via a firewall, it must open a TCP connection to the appropriate SOX port on the SOX server. That is, any client wishing to communicate must open a connection with the SOX server system. The SOX server evaluates the request and either establishes the appropriate connection to the remote server to which client is requesting, otherwise it can deny it. Similarly, it will happen for UDP connections. Then you have stateful inspection firewalls, which operate at transport, internet and network access layers, that is similar to packet filtering firewall, but here it considers the context of the higher layers, that is application layer. So to understand the concept of the context, let's look at this example. There is simple mail transport protocol, that is SMTP. It operates by setting up a TCP connection between a client and server for email applications. In this, you have a TCP server and a TCP client. So your TCP server port number is available, which identifies SMTP server application. The port number for SMTP is 25, and the TCP port number for SMTP client is a number which can be chosen between 1024 and 65,535, that is generated by SMTP client. So here, if you look at the way the TCP is functioning, it is based on the context of the application. Here the context is SMTP, so the port numbers differ here for server and the client. Similarly for SNMP, that is Simple Network Management Protocol, or Telnet, etc. So in general, if you look at it, when an application that uses TCP creates a session with a remote host, it creates a TCP connection in which the TCP port number for the remote, that is the server application, is a number less than 1024, which you call it as well-known ports, and the TCP port number for the local, that is client application, is a number between 1024 and 65,535. So the client port numbers are temporary and they remain only for the lifetime of the connection, whereas server port numbers are permanent. This kind of firewalls tighten up the rules for TCP traffic by creating a directory of outbound TCP connections. That is, in the directory it will have source IP number, then source port number, then destination IP number and destination port number, and the connection, whether it is established or not established. So there is an entry for each currently established connection inside the directory, and this allows packets that fit the profile of one of the entries in this directory. So looking at the directory, the connections are allowed and the information is transferred. These firewalls review packet information and record information about TCP connections in the directory, as I just said. Some stateful firewalls also keep track of TCP sequence numbers in order to prevent the attacks which depend on sequence number, called as session hijacking. And even some of the firewalls even inspect limited amounts of the application data for some well-known protocols like file transfer protocol, instant messaging protocol, session initiation protocol, in order to identify and track the related connections. Now let's look at where these firewalls are based. It is normally common to base a firewall on a standalone machine that runs a secure operating system such as Unix or Linux, or it can also be implemented as a software module in a router or a LAN switch or a workstation. And there are other kinds of basing such as Bastion host, host-based firewall, and you have a personal firewall. The Bastion host, it is a system which is identified by the firewall administrator, which is a critical strong point in the network security. It serves as a platform for an application level or circuit level gateway. It is a secure version of the operating system that makes it very hard for any intruder to get in. Then you have a host-based firewall, which is a software module employed to secure an individual host. These modules are available in many operating systems and can be provided as an add-on package. Like conventional standalone firewalls, these host resident firewalls filter and restrict the flow of packets. The common location for such a firewall is servers. So servers will have this kind of firewalls in order to secure the entry into the server. Then a personal firewall which controls the traffic between a personal computer or a workstation on one side and the internet or enterprise network on the other side. The Personal firewall functionality can be used in the home environment, like we use our laptops or desktops to connect to the internet, and on corporate intranets. This personal firewall is a software module which will be on the personal computer. So this is about firewall basing. So answer the following to check your learning outcomes. Discuss working of an application gateway. Explain function of circuit level gateway. Describe stateful inspection firewall. List firewall basing techniques.